They're just constantly on us. TV, radio, the mail, on our phones, texting. Hey, Bill, Tim Walz here. You up? They're everywhere all the time. Jesus Christ, off. Let mommy put her purse down. What I could see is replacing the vice president because, yeah, she's just not very popular anywhere. And it didn't seem to work out. And I don't know, that's been done before on a ticket. I just think she's a bad politician.
Democrats are scrambling to salvage their flailing re-election hopes. And guess who's being floated again? Kamala Harris. Because nothing says fresh start like reviving the most uninspiring vice president in recent memory. Enter Bill Maher, who's never exactly been on Team Kamala, and time hasn't softened him. In a scathing monologue, Maher didn't just pour cold water on the Kamala 2024 fantasy. He soaked it in gasoline and lit the match. So buckle up, grab some popcorn, and maybe keep a fire extinguisher nearby. This political roast came with extra heat.
When Joe Biden was still hanging on to be the candidate, many of the pundits said that to switch him out this late would cause chaos. Yeah, that was never my position. And indeed, what happened was Kamala Harris said, "Oh, look, I guess it's my turn." And the next day, a grateful nation handed her $500 million. The only reason we stay stuck in permanent campaign mode is money. It's estimated this year that $16 billion will be spent on political ads. It's time we admit that the endless campaign exists only to enrich advertisers, political consultants, and what's left of the news media.
Maher launched into his tirade by stating the obvious. It took Joe Biden years, not weeks or months, to finally admit what anyone paying attention already knew. He no longer had the mental sharpness to run for re-election. Those who said it early were dismissed, fact-checked into oblivion, or branded conspiracy theorists. But the moment Biden imploded during a presidential debate, those so-called conspiracies suddenly became mainstream common sense. And how did the Democrats respond? By rallying around a bold new leader? Hardly. They handed the reins to Kamala Harris, a vice president so absent from public life you'd think she was in witness protection. She slid in unopposed, unchallenged, and completely untested. And where did that get them? Straight into one of the most humiliating electoral disasters in modern U.S. history. Maher didn't sugarcoat it. He torched the entire premise of Kamala as a viable plan B.
People didn't used to get sick of the candidates because you barely ever saw them unless you happened to be standing at the back end of a train. But now we never stop seeing them. The winner in modern elections comes down to who we're less tired of. They're just constantly on us. TV, radio, the mail, on our phones, texting. Hey, Bill, Tim Walz here. You up? They're everywhere all the time. Jesus Christ, off. Let mommy put her purse down.
One of the milder reasons Maher believes Kamala Harris helped sink the election? Voter fatigue, plain and simple. People were done, not with her in a commanding presidential sense, but with her constant presence in a relentless, cringe-worthy PR blitz that felt more like spam than leadership. Alongside Tim Walz, she became part of an omnipresent duo, ambushing inboxes, crashing concerts, photobombing Instagram posts, hijacking YouTube ads, and popping up on TikTok like a political jump scare. It was marketing overkill, a saturation campaign that didn't build trust, but drained it. Instead of igniting enthusiasm, it sparked one collective eye roll. As Maher put it, the entire rollout felt like being cornered by a brand you'd never buy, selling a product you never wanted. A wildly unpopular VP with no clear vision and even less authenticity. Harris didn't connect, she repelled. And this, Maher argued sharply, wasn't just overexposure. It was political self-sabotage. In 4K, with subtitles.
What I could see is replacing the vice president because, yeah, she's just not very popular anywhere. And it didn't seem to work out. And I don't know, that's been done before on a ticket. I just think she's a bad politician.
Another reason Maher sees Kamala Harris as a doomed candidate? She's simply not a good politician. And not in the charming outsider way, but in the painfully unpolished, perpetually unprepared way. Maher could list her many missteps, but one glaring flaw stands out. Her inability to handle unscripted moments. The second she's asked a question outside her rehearsed talking points, It's like watching a deer freeze in headlights. If that deer's teleprompter also glitched mid-sentence. We've all seen it. The infamous word salads, those long, meandering, disjointed monologues that somehow manage to say absolutely nothing, yet still feel like they go on forever.
You need to get to go. I need to be able to get where you need to go.
I do believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. And that's why I do believe that we are living in real unsettled time.
Even her scripted interviews are tough to watch. Kamala Harris stumbles, backtracks, and often leaves voters more confused and informed. For someone with years in public office, her delivery remains strangely unrefined, lacking the polish and poise expected at that level. In politics, clarity and confidence are everything, and Kamala keeps showing up without either. Maher isn't being harsh. He's pointing out what's painfully obvious. Need a reminder? Just rewind a moment she proudly declared North Korea as one of America's allies. That clip still echoes in political blooper reels.
The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. In the North, we see a brutal dictatorship, rampant human rights violations, and an unlawful weapons program.
Seriously, how does someone accidentally call North Korea an ally? That's not a harmless slip. It's a full-blown geopolitical faceplant. And maybe, just maybe, we could laugh it off if it came from someone else. But this is Kamala Harris, the same woman who's practically turned verbal blunders into a personal brand. She's not just prone to gaffes. She's their reigning monarch. Now picture her as president, sitting in a high-stakes closed-door meeting with NATO, the G7, or negotiating with China or Russia, and out comes another baffling, poorly timed remark. The room would freeze, translators would panic, and global markets might actually flinch. These aren't cute flubs. They're loaded mistakes with real-world consequences. When a job demands laser-sharp clarity and international finesse, the last thing America needs is a leader who keeps stepping on her own message. Maher wasn't just cracking a joke. He was sounding the alarm, loudly, and with reason.
This is Kamala's great dilemma. Trump is invulnerable to an October surprise, but she is very vulnerable because she's the one who is still undefined. And as she showed in this week's Bret Baier interview, her go-to when attacked for her own actions is usually Trump is worse. Okay, we know that. But now undecided voters want to hear about you. They want someone to vote for. This election comes down to this. Trump has a coalition of voters made up of A, people who really do like him, and B, people who think with all of his flaws, he's still better than far-left insanity.
Kamala Harris was so weak on the campaign trail that whenever she was challenged, she defaulted to the same tired fallback. Well, Trump was worse. As if simply not being Donald Trump is some kind of resume for presidency. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't leadership. It was a political equivalent of saying, hey, at least I'm not the other guy. And that's not a strategy, it's a cop-out. According to Bill Maher, one of the real tests of Harris's leadership was whether she could resist the increasingly unhinged demands of the woke echo chamber. Would she think for herself? Or just echo whatever slogan was trending that day? Spoiler, she caved, again and again. Every time the moment called for backbone, Harris folded like a lawn chair. Rather than lead with principle, she parroted whatever hashtag happened to be hot that week. For Maher, and for plenty of voters looking for authenticity, that wasn't just a red flag. It was confirmation that she's not ready to lead a fractured nation desperate for real direction, not blind conformity.
And the voters' big doubt about Kamala is, are you part of far-left insanity? The attack ad I see 10 times a day, and a question Bret Baier aimed at her on Wednesday was about her saying in 2019 that she supported providing taxpayer-funded exchange operations to illegal immigrants in prison. Something that's actually never happened and has no real bearing on anybody's life. But it's a litmus test for voters out there who want to know of the Democrat, is there anything your fringe can suggest that will ever make you say, no, that's f***ing ridiculous?
And this was the tipping point for most voters. After 4 years of increasingly exhausting woke politics under President Biden, the nation had one urgent question. Would Kamala Harris stay the course, or take it even further? Sadly, she offered no clarity, no vision, and certainly no indication that she'd hit the brakes. If anything, her silence, or worse, her visible complicity, signaled she was ready to double down on the same divisive, performative policies that had already split the electorate. At a time when Americans were desperate for strength, sanity, and a return to common sense, Harris delivered only vagueness wrapped in activist slogans. So when it came time to vote, the public turned to the one figure who actually addressed that rising demand for restoration: Donald Trump. Love him or hate him, Trump offered what Harris simply couldn't: hope for economic revival, secure borders, energy independence, and unapologetic leadership that didn't fold under pressure. For millions of voters, Trump wasn't just the alternative, he was a correction.
Next time, maybe try. Joe Biden generally did a good job, but sure, I wish we'd tightened the border sooner, as we have done now, and trust me, I learned my lesson, and that's never going to happen again. Kamala, it's so important that you win this election, not just for the sake of retaining a real democracy and for the good of the world, but also because I predicted a month ago you'd win this thing, and if you blow it, it's going to make me look bad.
Another glaring reason Bill Maher argues Kamala Harris is unfit for presidency. Just look at her disastrous performance as Border Czar. It was one of her most high-profile assignments, and she utterly fumbled it. Under her so-called oversight, the southern border didn't just leak, it collapsed. Millions of illegal immigrants surged into the country, straining resources and escalating national security concerns. But it wasn't just about the numbers. As Maher and others pointed out, this wasn't simply families seeking a better life. The border morphed into a superhighway for trafficking, human, drug, and arms. Fentanyl poured into American communities. Overdose deaths skyrocketed, and illegal weapons slipped into criminal networks, all while law enforcement was stretched thin. And where was Harris? Nowhere, offering vague sound bites, dodging accountability, and avoiding the crisis she was assigned to fix. If this was her leadership audition, she didn't just fail, she vanished. A no-show in the face of one of the nation's most pressing challenges.
I've got a really good prediction record, so please don't f this up. Kamala, ever since I put down my marker on you and said you'd win and I wasn't even worried about it, everyone, everywhere, on the road, in LA, texting me, emailing me, stopping me in restaurants, asking me, Bill, are you sure? No, I'm not sure. What am I, Kreskin? Of course I'm not sure, but that's my gut. I think Kamala Harris wants this. I think she can do this, to say nothing of, if she loses, she'll never hear the end of it from Joe. I told you I was the only one who could beat him, Biden.
Maher's prediction didn't stop the inevitable, but it was spot on. Kamala Harris lost the election, and not in a close call. Voters rejected her by a wide margin. Yet even in defeat, everything Maher warned about still holds true. Harris hasn't evolved, adjusted, or even pretended to pivot. If anything, she's doubling down on the very traits that made her unelectable in the first place. Case in point, her recent appearance at a major real estate conference. It was a prime opportunity to show leadership and present real solutions. Instead, she delivered another one of her now infamous word salads, rambling, vague, and devoid of any clear message. The audience was left squinting through the rhetorical fog, wondering if she said anything meaningful at all. There was no clarity, no vision, just more polished confusion. If Harris seriously sees herself as a future contender, her first step should be mastering coherent speech. Until then, Maher's takedown remains not just relevant. It's a painfully honest explanation for why she flopped. That's it for today. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.